The water rushed into Cassandra Oliver's kayak with terrifying speed. One moment she was peacefully paddling along the sparkling blue coast of Lake Michigan, and the next, her world had literally capsized. Her heart pounded as she gasped for air, struggling to keep her head above water while clinging desperately to her overturned kayak. The late September winds had picked up without warning, transforming the once calm surface into choppy, dangerous waves. "Help!" she screamed, her voice barely audible above the wind and waves. Her legs kicked frantically beneath her as the cold water began to steal her body heat. The shore seemed impossibly far away, and panic clawed at her chest as she realized how serious her situation was. Then suddenly, through the spray of water, she saw another kayak cutting purposefully toward her. The man paddling it moved with confident, powerful strokes, covering the distance between them with impressive speed. "Hold on," he called out. "I'm coming." Within seconds, he had maneuvered his kayak alongside her overturned one. Up close, Cassandra could see he was about her age, early 30s, perhaps with dark hair plastered to his forehead from exertion and water spray. His eyes were a startling blue-green, like the lake itself on a calmer day. "Give me your hand," he commanded, extending his arm toward her. Cassandra reached out, feeling his strong grip as he caught her wrist. With surprising strength, he stabilized his own kayak while pulling her partway out of the water. "I'm going to help you onto mine, then we'll head to shore," he explained, his voice steady and reassuring. "On three. 1, 2, 3. With a coordinated effort that seemed almost choreographed, he hauled her from the water and onto his kayak. It wobbled precariously for a moment before he expertly balanced it. "Thank you," Cassandra gasped, shivering as the wind hit her soaked clothes. "I thought I was going to. Don't worry about that now," he interrupted, already beginning to paddle toward shore. "Let's get you somewhere warm first." As they made their way to land, Cassandra became acutely aware of being pressed against this stranger's back, feeling the rhythmic movement of his muscles as he paddled. Despite her cold, wet clothes and the lingering fear, she felt oddly safe. Once they reached the shore, he jumped out first, pulling the kayak up onto the sand before offering her his hand again. Her legs felt wobbly as she stepped onto solid ground. "Are you okay?" he asked, his eyes scanning her with genuine concern. "Yes, I think so," Cassandra nodded, wrapping her arms around herself as she shivered. "Just cold and a bit shaken up." "Here," he said, shrugging off his waterproof jacket and draping it around her shoulders. It was still warm from his body heat. "I'm Ryan, by the way, Ryan Reynolds." "Cassandra Oliver," she replied, pulling the jacket tighter. "Thank you for rescuing me. I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't come along." Ryan smiled, and something about it made her heart skip in a way that had nothing to do with her recent brush with danger. "I'm glad I was here. Do you have a car nearby? Somewhere you can get warm?" Cassandra nodded toward the parking lot. "My car's over there. I just need to figure out what to do about my kayak." Ryan glanced back at the water where her overturned kayak was being pushed farther out by the wind. "I'll get it," he said with determination. "Wait here." Before she could protest, he was pushing his kayak back into the water, paddling out to retrieve hers. Cassandra watched in awe as he skillfully secured her kayak to his own and brought them both back to shore, fighting against the increasingly rough water. By the time he returned, dragging both kayaks onto the beach, Cassandra had regained some of her composure, though she was still trembling from the cold. "You make that look easy," she said admiringly. Ryan shrugged as he secured the kayaks. "I've spent a lot of time on the water." He looked at her with renewed concern. "You really need to get warm. Can I walk you to your car?" As they made their way across the beach toward the parking lot, dragging the kayaks behind them, Cassandra stole glances at her rescuer. He was tall and fit, with broad shoulders and a strong jaw darkened by stubble. Despite his casual outdoor attire, quick dry shorts, and a fitted athletic shirt, there was something distinctly confident and authoritative about him. "So do you kayak here often?" she asked, trying to distract herself from her chattering teeth. "When I can," he replied. "I try to get out on the water whenever my schedule allows. It helps clear my head." He paused, then added with a slight smile, "Though I usually don't end up with rescue missions." "Lucky for me that you did today." Cassandra fumbled in her wet pocket for her car keys as they reached her modest Honda Civic. "Here, let me help you get the kayak on your roof rack," Ryan offered, lifting her waterlogged kayak with ease. Once they had secured her kayak, an awkward moment of silence fell between them. Cassandra was suddenly very aware that she was standing in a parking lot, soaking wet, with a handsome stranger who had just saved her life. "Thank you again," she said, handing him back his jacket. "I don't know how to repay you." Ryan's eyes met hers, and for a moment, something passed between them, a spark of connection that went beyond the circumstances of their meeting. "Maybe you could buy me coffee sometime," he suggested, then quickly added, "so I can make sure you've fully recovered from your adventure today." Cassandra found herself smiling despite her wet clothes and still trembling hands. "I think that's the least I could do." They exchanged phone numbers, and as Cassandra drove home, blasting the heater in her car, she couldn't help but think about those blue-green eyes and the strange twist of fate that had brought them together. What she didn't know was that the man who had just pulled her from the capsizing kayak was Ryan Reynolds, CEO of Meridian Shipping, one of the largest private maritime logistics companies in the country. And saving her was about to capsize his meticulously organized life in ways neither of them could have imagined. The following morning, Cassandra woke with aching muscles and vivid memories of her near disaster on the lake. She reached for her phone on the nightstand and saw a text message that had arrived late last night. "Hope you're feeling better after your swim. Coffee offer still stands." "Ryan," she smiled, feeling a flutter of excitement that seemed disproportionate to a simple text message. After a moment's consideration, she typed back, "Much better, thanks to you. Coffee sounds great." Within minutes, her phone buzzed with his response. "Excellent. How about Saturday, 10 a.m.? There's a place called Harbor Coffee on Lakeside Drive." Cassandra agreed, then set her phone down and got ready for work. As a marine biologist at the Great Lakes Aquarium and Research Center, she was used to being in or around water. Yesterday's incident had been her first serious mishap in years, and it was embarrassing to think about how quickly things had gone wrong. The weather report had predicted mild conditions clearly. It had been drastically wrong. At work, her colleague and friend Tina immediately noticed the slight stiffness in her movements. "What happened to you? Too much yoga?" she asked as they prepared samples in the lab. Cassandra sighed and recounted her mishap on the lake, including the dramatic rescue by a handsome stranger. "And now you're going for coffee with him." Tina's eyes widened. "That's like something out of a movie." "It's just coffee to say thank you," Cassandra insisted, though she couldn't deny the little thrill she felt every time she thought about seeing Ryan again. "So, what's his name?" "What does he do?" Tina pressed. "Ryan Reynolds. And I don't know what he does," Cassandra admitted. "We didn't exactly have time for career discussions while he was fishing me out of the lake." Tina grabbed her tablet and started typing. "Ryan Reynolds. Let's see if we can find anything." "Are you seriously Googling him?" Cassandra laughed, but peered over her friend's shoulder nonetheless. Tina's finger stopped scrolling suddenly. "Holy crap," she whispered. "Cassie, is this him?" She held up the tablet, showing a professional photo of Ryan in a tailored suit standing on what looked like a ship deck. The headline read, Meridian Shipping CEO Ryan Reynolds announces expansion of Great Lakes fleet. Cassandra's mouth fell open. That's him. She took the tablet and read more of the article. He's the CEO of Meridian Shipping. That's a huge company. Huge is an understatement, Tina said. They're one of the biggest private shipping companies in North America. The guy is probably worth millions. Well, that explains why he was so good with the kayak, Cassandra murmured, still processing this new information. She handed the tablet back to Tina and returned to her work, trying to appear unfazed. Still, it's just coffee to say thanks. Sure, just coffee with a millionaire CEO who saved your life. Totally normal Saturday plans, Tina teased. For the rest of the week, Cassandra tried not to think too much about her upcoming coffee date, if it could even be called that. She told herself she would have wanted to thank anyone who helped her, regardless of how attractive they were or what company they ran. Yet she couldn't deny the flutter of anticipation she felt when Saturday morning arrived. She chose her outfit carefully. Casual but flattering jeans, a soft blue sweater that matched her eyes, and comfortable ankle boots. Her dark blonde hair fell in natural waves past her shoulders, and she applied just enough makeup to look polished but not overdone. Harbor Coffee turned out to be a charming lakeside cafe with large windows offering a panoramic view of the water. Cassandra arrived a few minutes early and was surprised to find Ryan already there, sitting at a corner table with 2 coffee cups in front of him. He stood when he saw her, and Cassandra was struck again by his height and the easy confidence in his posture. Today, he wore dark jeans and a charcoal gray sweater that made his unusual eye color even more striking. "Cassandra," he smiled, pulling out a chair for her. "I'm glad you made it." "Please call me Cassie," she replied, settling into the seat. "And of course I made it. I couldn't miss thanking my rescuer properly." Ryan's smile widened. "I took the liberty of ordering for us, but if I got it wrong, what did you get me?" she challenged with a raised eyebrow. He slid one of the cups toward her. "Caramel latte with an extra shot. You struck me as someone who enjoys something sweet but still needs the caffeine kick." Cassandra took a sip and couldn't hide her surprise. "That's exactly what I would have ordered. How did you know?" Ryan shrugged, looking pleased with himself. "Just a guess. I'm good at reading people." "A useful skill for a CEO, I imagine," she said, watching his expression carefully. To his credit, Ryan didn't look particularly surprised that she knew who he was. "You looked me up," he stated simply. "My friend did, actually," Cassandra admitted. "I hope you don't mind." "Not at all. I would have told you anyway." He took a sip of his own coffee black, she noted. "Though I was enjoying being just Ryan for a moment, not Ryan Reynolds, CEO of Meridian Shipping." There was something in his tone that made Cassandra pause. "Is that a burden, being known for what you do?" Ryan considered her question seriously. "Sometimes people make assumptions. They see the title, the company, but not necessarily the person." He met her eyes. "What about you? What do you do when you're not getting into trouble on the lake?" Cassandra laughed. "I'm a marine biologist at the Great Lakes Aquarium and Research Center. I study freshwater ecosystems, particularly how they're being impacted by climate change and pollution." "That's fascinating," Ryan said, and unlike many people who said those words automatically when learning of her profession, he seemed genuinely interested. "So you're literally in the business of saving things too, just on a much larger scale." "I've never thought of it quite that way," she smiled. "But yes, I suppose so." They fell into easy conversation after that, discovering they shared a love of the outdoors, particularly water-related activities. Ryan explained that he had grown up around boats. His father had been a commercial fisherman before starting a small shipping business. which Ryan had eventually transformed into Meridian Shipping after taking over. "My dad taught me everything about being on the water," he said, a hint of nostalgia in his voice. "But he never taught me much about running a business. That part I had to figure out on my own." "And you've done well," Cassandra observed. "Your company seems impressive." "It's been a lot of work, but yes, we've grown significantly in the past decade." There was pride in his voice, but not arrogance. "What about your family? Are they from this area?" Cassandra shook her head. "I grew up in Seattle, actually. My parents still live there. I moved here for graduate school and fell in love with the Great Lakes. There's something special about them. They're like inland seas with their own unique ecosystems." "I agree," Ryan nodded. "Most people don't appreciate how important they are, both ecologically and economically." Their coffee cups had long been empty, but neither seemed inclined to end their conversation. Finally, Ryan glanced at his watch and sighed. "I hate to cut this short, but I have a conference call at noon that I can't miss. Some business never stops, even on weekends." "Of course," Cassandra said, surprised at her own disappointment. "I understand." Ryan hesitated, then asked, "Would you like to have dinner sometime? Maybe next Friday?" The invitation hung between them, and Cassandra knew this was the moment where coffee as a thank you would become something more. Despite her usual caution about dating, especially dating someone whose world seemed so different from hers, she found herself nodding. "I'd like that," she said simply. Ryan's genuine smile made her heart skip. "Great, I'll text you the details." He stood and helped her with her jacket, his hands lingering briefly on her shoulders. "It was really nice getting to know you, Cassie, under much better circumstances than our first meeting." "Definitely better," she agreed. "No near-drowning experiences this time." As they parted ways outside the cafe, Cassandra couldn't help but watch him walk to his car, a sleek but understated luxury sedan. There was something about Ryan Reynolds that intrigued her beyond his good looks and impressive career. Something genuine and unassuming despite his success. What she didn't realize was that Ryan was equally intrigued by her. As he drove to his downtown office for his conference call, he found himself thinking about her animated expression when she talked about her research, the intelligent questions she'd asked about his business, and the surprising ease he'd felt in her company. For a man who lived by careful planning and strategic decisions, this unexpected connection felt both thrilling and unsettling. Ryan had pulled Cassandra from a capsizing kayak without hesitation, never expecting that saving her would begin to capsize the orderly life he'd built for himself. The weeks seemed to crawl by as Cassandra waited for Friday. Ryan texted her a few times, once to confirm dinner reservations at Azure, one of the city's most exclusive lakefront restaurants, and another time just to ask how her day was going. Each message made her smile, though she tried to temper her growing excitement with practicality. After all, they'd only met twice, and their worlds were vastly different. When Friday finally arrived, Cassandra found herself unusually nervous as she prepared for their date. Azure was the kind of place where local celebrities and business elite dined, not her usual scene at all. She finally settled on a simple but elegant navy blue dress with a tasteful neckline and a hemline that fell just above her knees. Ryan had offered to pick her up, but Cassandra had politely declined, preferring to drive herself. As she pulled into the restaurant's valet parking area, she took a deep breath to calm her nerves. Inside, the restaurant was even more impressive than she had imagined. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a stunning view of Lake Michigan, and subtle lighting created an atmosphere of intimate sophistication. "Miss Oliver," the maitre d' approached her immediately. "Mr. Reynolds is already seated. Please follow me." Cassandra felt eyes on her as she followed the host through the dining room, wondering if people recognized Ryan as a local business leader. When she caught sight of him at a corner table with the best view of the lake, her nerves melted away. He stood as she approached, and the genuine pleasure in his eyes made her feel immediately welcome. "Cassie," he said, taking her hand briefly, "you look beautiful." "Thank you," she replied, noting how handsome he looked in a tailored navy suit that complemented her dress so perfectly it almost seemed planned. "This place is amazing." "I thought you might appreciate the view," he said as they sat down. "It's the lake from a different perspective than we're used to seeing." A waiter immediately appeared with 2 glasses of champagne. "To celebrate your safe return to water activities," Ryan explained with a hint of teasing in his voice. Cassandra laughed and raised her glass. "I haven't actually been back in a kayak yet." "No, we should fix that sometime. When the weather's better, of course." "Are you offering to be my kayaking safety instructor?" she asked with a raised eyebrow. "I'm offering to be whatever you need," he replied, his tone light but his eyes serious. Dinner progressed with the same easy conversation they'd enjoyed at the coffee shop. Ryan asked thoughtful questions about her research, and Cassandra found herself explaining complex ecological concepts that usually made people's eyes glaze over. Instead, Ryan seemed genuinely interested, even offering insights about how shipping companies like his could better protect aquatic ecosystems. "Most of my competitors see environmental regulations as obstacles," he explained as they enjoyed their main course, perfectly seared scallops for her and a steak for him. "I see them as opportunities to innovate. We're currently developing a new fleet of ships that will have a significantly reduced environmental impact." "That's impressive," Cassandra said. "Most companies just do the minimum required by law." Ryan shrugged. "My father taught me that we borrow the water, we don't own it. If we want to keep using it for business, we need to take care of it." "Your father sounds like a wise man." "He was," Ryan nodded, a shadow crossing his face. "He passed away 5 years ago." "I'm sorry," Cassandra said softly, instinctively reaching across the table to touch his hand. Ryan turned his hand to briefly hold hers. "Thank you. He would have liked you. He always said I needed someone who would challenge me to be better." The moment felt significant, and Cassandra found herself wondering if Ryan often shared such personal reflections with people. Somehow, she suspected he didn't. As they finished their dessert, a decadent chocolate creation they decided to share, Ryan asked, "Would you like to take a walk along the waterfront? There's a lovely path just outside." The night air was cool but pleasant as they strolled along the lakeside path. Without discussing it, Ryan had taken her hand, and the simple contact sent a warm current through Cassandra's body. "Thank you for dinner," she said. "It was wonderful." "Thank you for agreeing to come," he replied. "I have to admit, I was a bit worried you might say no." Cassandra looked at him in surprise. "Why would I say no?" Ryan hesitated, then answered honestly. "In my experience, when people find out what I do, what my company is worth, it changes things. Some people are intimidated, others see dollar signs. Either way, it creates a barrier." "Is that why you were just Ryan when we met?" she asked. He nodded. "It's rare that I meet someone who doesn't already know who I am or what I do." It was refreshing. "Well, for what it's worth, I'm much more impressed by your kayaking skills and your environmental ethics than by your title or bank account," Cassandra said. Ryan stopped walking and turned to face her, still holding her hand. "That's exactly why I wanted to see you again." The moment stretched between them, filled with unspoken possibility. Then, with a gentleness that contrasted with the strength she knew he possessed, Ryan leaned down and kissed her. It was soft and questioning at first, then deeper as Cassandra responded, her free hand coming up to rest against his chest. When they finally pulled apart, Cassandra felt slightly breathless. That was. She began. Unexpected, Ryan suggested, a smile playing at his lips. I was going to say nice, but unexpected works too, she laughed. They continued their walk, talking less now but enjoying a comfortable silence punctuated by the sound of small waves lapping at the shore. Eventually, they made their way back to the restaurant parking lot. Can I see you again? Ryan asked as they reached her car, the valet discreetly waiting nearby with her keys. I'd like that, Cassandra nodded, surprised by how certain she felt about it. Tomorrow. There's a farmer's market in the morning, much less fancy than tonight, I promise. The thought of seeing Ryan in such a normal, everyday setting appealed to Cassandra. That sounds perfect. He kissed her once more, briefly but with unmistakable intention, before helping her into her car. As Cassandra drove home, she realized she was smiling so widely her cheeks hurt. Whatever was happening between them felt both exciting and natural, a combination she hadn't experienced in a very long time. What she didn't know was that across town, Ryan was experiencing the exact same feeling. As he entered his spacious lakefront condo, he realized it was the first time in years that the silence of his perfectly decorated home felt oppressive rather than peaceful. For the first time since taking over Meridian Shipping, something besides work occupied his thoughts entirely, and that something was Cassandra Oliver. The farmer's market date on Saturday morning was followed by a Sunday hike along the lakeshore. By the following weekend, they had fallen into a rhythm of seeing each other almost daily, fitting their time together around Ryan's demanding work schedule and Cassandra's research commitments. 2 weeks after their first dinner date, Ryan invited Cassandra to his condo for the first time. He had offered to cook dinner, an invitation that both surprised and intrigued her. His home was exactly what she might have expected, a stunning penthouse overlooking the lake, decorated in sophisticated neutrals with occasional splashes of blue-green that mimicked the water visible through the floor-to-ceiling windows. Yet despite its obvious luxury, it felt strangely impersonal, as if it had been designed by a professional but never fully inhabited. This view is incredible, Cassandra said as she stood by the windows, watching the sun begin its descent toward the lake horizon. It's what sold me on the place, Ryan admitted, handing her a glass of wine before returning to the kitchen area, where something delicious was already simmering. Though sometimes I think I don't appreciate it enough. I'm rarely home before dark most days. The demands of being CEO. She asked, joining him in the kitchen. Ryan nodded as he stirred what appeared to be a risotto. The company has been expanding rapidly. We've acquired 2 smaller shipping lines in the past year, which means a lot of integration work. New staff, new processes, new headaches. Is that why you were out kayaking that day we met? To escape the headaches, he smiled at her perceptiveness. Exactly. Being on the water is the only time my brain truly disconnects from work. He paused, then added more quietly, at least it was until I met you. The simple admission touched Cassandra deeply. Over the past 2 weeks, she had come to understand that behind Ryan's confident exterior was a man who rarely let people see his more vulnerable side. Each glimpse he allowed her felt like a gift. What are you making? She asked, changing the subject to something lighter. It smells amazing. Seafood risotto, he replied. My dad's recipe, actually. One of the few things he taught me that wasn't related to boats or business. As they cooked together, Ryan letting Cassandra help with the final preparations, they fell into the easy rhythm they had developed over the past weeks. There was a comfort between them that seemed to defy the relatively short time they'd known each other. Over dinner, their conversation turned to their childhoods. Ryan described growing up on the shores of Lake Michigan, spending more time on boats than on land, while Cassandra shared stories of tide pooling on the Pacific coast and her early fascination with marine life. "My parents thought I was going through a phase," she laughed. "They gave me a microscope for my 10th birthday, hoping I'd develop an interest in something less wet and smelly than dead fish. Clearly that backfired," Ryan grinned. "Completely. I started collecting water samples and making them look at all the microorganisms I found. My mom was supportive but definitely confused about why her daughter wanted to study plankton instead of pursuing something normal like teaching or nursing. My parents were the opposite," Ryan reflected. "My dad assumed I'd take over the family business. It wasn't even a question. When I wanted to go to business school instead of immediately joining the company after high school, he was actually disappointed. He didn't understand why I needed to learn from books what he could teach me on the job." "But you went anyway," Cassandra observed. "I did. It was the first time I really stood my ground with him." Ryan's expression grew thoughtful. "He didn't understand then, but later, when I used what I'd learned to expand Meridian from a small regional shipping company to what it is today. He was proud. He never said it directly, but I could tell." After dinner, they moved to the sofa with fresh glasses of wine. The city lights had come on, creating a twinkling backdrop to their conversation. Without planning it, Cassandra found herself leaning against Ryan, his arm comfortably around her shoulders. "Can I ask you something personal?" she ventured after a comfortable silence. "Of course. You're successful, attractive, clearly good at what you do. Why are you single?" As soon as the words left her mouth, she wished she could take them back. "I'm sorry, that's too forward." "No, it's a fair question," Ryan interrupted. "The simple answer is that I've been focused on building the company. The more complicated answer." He paused, considering his words. "I've dated, of course, but I've never met someone who made me want to rearrange my priorities. Until recently." The implication hung in the air between them. Cassandra's heart beat faster as she turned to look at him. "Recently." Instead of answering with words, Ryan kissed her, a kiss that quickly deepened into something more urgent than their previous encounters. Cassandra responded with equal intensity, weeks of growing attraction culminating in this moment. Later, as they lay tangled in Ryan's sheets, the moonlight streaming through the bedroom windows casting a silvery glow over their skin, Cassandra experienced a moment of perfect contentment. Yet at the edges of her consciousness, a tiny voice warned her to be cautious. She was falling for Ryan, falling hard and fast, but their worlds were still very different. She couldn't help but wonder if what felt so right in this moment could truly work in the long term. For his part, Ryan watched Cassandra as she drifted towards sleep, marveling at how quickly she had become essential to him. In just a few short weeks, this woman he'd pulled from a capsizing kayak had managed to capsize his own carefully structured life, and surprisingly, he didn't mind at all. The morning sunlight woke Cassandra, momentarily disorienting her until she remembered where she was. Ryan's side of the bed was empty, but she could hear movement in the kitchen and smell coffee brewing. She slipped on one of his shirts and padded out of the bedroom. Ryan stood at the stove, expertly flipping pancakes, dressed only in pajama bottoms. The domestic scene made her heart do a funny little flip. "Good morning," he smiled when he noticed her. "I hope you like blueberry pancakes." "I love them," she said, accepting the cup of coffee he handed her. "I didn't expect you to be such a good cook." "Another skill from my dad," Ryan explained. "He believed every man should know how to feed himself properly, not just eat takeout or frozen meals." They ate breakfast on Ryan's balcony, enjoying the morning sunshine and spectacular view of the lake. Cassandra couldn't help but think how surreal it felt to be here with him, how quickly her life had changed since that day on the water. "What are you thinking?" Ryan asked, noticing her thoughtful expression. "Just how unexpected all this is," she admitted. "3 weeks ago, I was just going for a normal kayaking trip. Now I'm having breakfast on a penthouse balcony with—" She hesitated, unsure how to define what they were to each other. "With your boyfriend," Ryan suggested, watching her reaction carefully. Cassandra smiled, warmth spreading through her chest. "Is that what you are, if you want me to be?" he replied. "I know it's fast, but I don't think either of us is interested in seeing other people, are we?" "Definitely not," she agreed. "So, boyfriend it is." Ryan reached across the table to take her hand, his thumb tracing circles on her palm. "Good, though that word seems inadequate somehow." The rest of the morning passed in a pleasant haze of conversation and affection. It was only when Cassandra reluctantly mentioned she needed to go home to prepare for the upcoming work week that reality began to intrude on their bubble. "I have to fly to Chicago tomorrow for meetings," Ryan said as he walked her to her car. "I'll be gone until Wednesday night." "That's only a few days," Cassandra said, trying not to show her disappointment. She'd grown accustomed to seeing him daily. "Too long," he murmured, pulling her close for a lingering goodbye kiss. "I'll call you every night." True to his word, Ryan called her each evening from Chicago. Their conversations ranged from the details of their days to deeper discussions about their hopes and dreams. By the time he returned on Wednesday, Cassandra realized with both excitement and trepidation that she was falling in love with him. The following weekend, Ryan surprised her with an invitation to a charity gala benefiting the Great Lakes Conservation Foundation, an organization that worked closely with Cassandra's research center. "It's a black tie event," he warned. "Very formal, lots of business people and potential donors. I'm on the foundation's board, so I'm expected to attend, but I completely understand if it's not your thing." "I'd love to go," Cassandra assured him, though privately she felt a flutter of nervousness. This would be their first public event together, and her first real glimpse into Ryan's professional world. The night of the gala, Ryan picked her up in a sleek black car with a driver. When Cassandra emerged from her apartment building, wearing a floor-length emerald gown purchased during an emergency shopping trip with Tina, the look of appreciation in Ryan's eyes made all her nervousness vanish. "You are absolutely stunning," he said, taking her hand and helping her into the car. "You clean up pretty well yourself," she replied, admiring how the classic black tuxedo emphasized his broad shoulders and tall frame. As they drove to the historic hotel hosting the event, Ryan briefed her on some of the people they might encounter. "The foundation's chairman, Howard Brennan, can be a bit pompous, but he's genuinely committed to the cause. And you might meet some of my executive team, they're all attending as well." Cassandra nodded, trying to absorb the information while tamping down her growing anxiety. "Will anyone be surprised that you're bringing a date? Have you done that before?" Ryan's expression softened as he took her hand. "Honestly, no. I usually attend these functions alone." "So yes, there might be some surprised looks, but only because they're not used to seeing me with someone who makes me happy." His simple honesty calmed her nerves more effectively than any reassurance about her appearance or the importance of the guests could have. When they arrived at the hotel, Cassandra was immediately impressed by the grandeur of the ballroom. Crystal chandeliers cast a warm glow over elegantly decorated tables, while floor-to-ceiling windows offered views of the illuminated city skyline and lake beyond. Ryan kept his hand at the small of her back as they navigated the crowd, stopping frequently as people approached him. He introduced Cassandra to everyone with the same phrase. "This is Dr. Cassandra Oliver, a marine biologist specializing in Great Lakes ecosystems." The professional recognition made her stand a little taller each time. During dinner, they were seated at a table with several members of Ryan's executive team and their spouses. Cassandra found herself engaged in a fascinating conversation with Ryan's operations director about how shipping routes could be optimized to minimize disruption to fish migration patterns. "You should come speak to our logistics team sometime," the director suggested. "Your perspective could be valuable as we plan our new routes." "I'd be happy to," Cassandra replied, glancing at Ryan, who was watching their exchange with evident pleasure. After dinner, as the orchestra began playing and couples moved to the dance floor, Ryan led Cassandra to a quiet corner of the ballroom. "How are you doing?" he asked, his concern genuine. "I know these events can be overwhelming." "I'm enjoying it more than I expected," she admitted. "Everyone has been very welcoming." "They're seeing what I see," Ryan said simply. "And what's that? An intelligent, passionate, beautiful woman who happens to know more about the Great Lakes ecosystem than probably anyone else in this room." His eyes held hers. "Someone who fits perfectly in my arms when we dance." As if to prove his point, he led her to the dance floor. Cassandra had taken ballroom dancing lessons in college, a physical education requirement she'd chosen over team sports, but she was still impressed by Ryan's confident lead as they moved together to the music. "Another unexpected skill," she commented. "Let me guess, your father taught you this too?" Ryan laughed. "No, this one was my mother's influence. She insisted I learn before my first high school formal, said no son of hers was going to shuffle awkwardly around a dance floor." As they continued dancing, Cassandra became aware of subtle glances from others around them. "People are watching us," she murmured. "Let them," Ryan replied, pulling her closer. "They're probably wondering how I got so lucky." Later, as they shared a quiet moment on the terrace overlooking the lake, the muted sounds of the gala behind them, Ryan turned to Cassandra with an unexpected seriousness. "Thank you for coming tonight," he said. "Having you here, it changed everything." Usually these events feel like an obligation, part of the job. Tonight felt special. "It was special for me too," she replied honestly. Ryan hesitated, then continued. "I know we haven't known each other long, just over a month since that day on the lake. But Cassie, I've never felt this way about anyone before." Cassandra's heart raced at his words and the intensity in his eyes. "I feel the same way," she admitted softly. "I'm falling in love with you," Ryan said, the words simple but profound. "I think I started falling the moment I pulled you from that kayak." Instead of replying with words, Cassandra closed the distance between them, her lips finding his in a kiss that conveyed everything she felt but wasn't quite ready to say aloud. The city lights and the moon reflecting off the lake created a perfect backdrop for a moment that felt like the beginning of something profound. What neither of them noticed was a photographer from a local business publication capturing the intimate moment from a distance, a photo that would unexpectedly thrust their private relationship into very public view. The morning after the gala, Cassandra woke in Ryan's bed, feeling contentedly exhausted after their late night. Ryan was already awake beside her, scrolling through emails on his phone. "Good morning," she mumbled, stretching languidly. He set his phone aside immediately, giving her his full attention. "Good morning, beautiful. Sleep well." Very," she smiled, moving closer to him. "Though someone kept me up rather late." Ryan grinned unrepentantly. "I didn't hear any complaints last night." Their playful morning was interrupted by Ryan's phone ringing. With an apologetic glance at Cassandra, he answered it. "Yes, Marcus." His expression shifted from relaxed to concerned as he listened. "When did this happen?" "I see. No, I'm not upset with you. Thanks for the heads up." He ended the call and turned to Cassandra with a sigh. That was my PR director. Apparently, we're in the business section of the Tribune this morning. The gala coverage? She asked, confused by his concerned expression. Not exactly. Ryan reached for his tablet on the nightstand and pulled up the online edition of the newspaper. There, prominently displayed, was a photograph of them kissing on the terrace, under the headline, Meridian Shipping CEO's Mystery Woman. Ryan Reynolds' romantic night at conservation gala. Cassandra stared at the image, a mixture of emotions washing over her. The photo itself was beautiful, almost romantic in how it captured their silhouettes against the night sky, but seeing their private moments splashed across a newspaper felt invasive. "I'm so sorry," Ryan said, watching her reaction carefully. "This isn't what I wanted for us." "It's not your fault," she assured him, though she couldn't quite mask her discomfort. "I guess this is part of dating someone in your position." "Unfortunately, yes. I've managed to keep a fairly low profile over the years, but apparently a confirmed bachelor like me suddenly appearing with a gorgeous date is newsworthy." He ran a hand through his hair in frustration. "The article is speculating about who you are, where we met, how long we've been together." Cassandra scanned the article, relieved to see they hadn't identified her by name, though they described her as an unidentified blonde in an emerald gown who kept the usually business-focused CEO enthralled all evening. "Could be worse," she said, trying to make light of it. "At least they didn't call me a mystery blonde or something equally trite." Ryan didn't smile. "This is just the beginning, Cassie. Once they figure out who you are and they'll dig into your background, maybe even contact your workplace. Are you prepared for that?" The question gave her pause. Was she ready for the scrutiny that came with dating someone like Ryan? Her life had always been private and professionally focused. "I don't know," she answered honestly. "I hadn't really thought about it." Ryan took her hand. "We can try to get ahead of this." Marcus suggested issuing a brief statement confirming we're dating but requesting privacy. It might help. "Would that work?" "Sometimes, not always," he sighed. "I should have warned you about this possibility." "Ryan," Cassandra said firmly, "we can't control everything." "Yes, it's a bit unnerving to see us in the paper, but it's not a disaster. I'm dating you, not your public image." His expression softened with evident relief. "Have I told you how amazing you are?" "Not in the last 12 hours, she teased, trying to lighten the moment. They spent the rest of the morning discussing how to handle the situation, eventually agreeing to Ryan's PR team issuing a simple statement confirming their relationship while respectfully requesting privacy. Cassandra also decided to give her supervisor at the research center a heads up, in case they received any media inquiries. By Monday morning, the statement had been released, but rather than dampening interest, it seemed to increase it. When Cassandra arrived at work, Tina immediately pulled her into an empty office. "Why didn't you tell me you were dating Ryan Reynolds?" she demanded, holding up her phone with the Tribune article displayed. "I had to find out from the newspaper like everyone else." "I'm sorry," Cassandra winced. "I didn't expect the photo to be published. We were just at a charity gala." "Looking completely in love on a moonlit terrace," Tina pointed out. "Which, by the way, is incredibly romantic. But seriously, Cassie, this is big news. People are talking." "What are they saying?" Cassandra asked, anxiety creeping into her voice. Tina's expression softened. "Mostly they're impressed. The director mentioned that Meridian Shipping has announced a major donation to our algae bloom research program. The timing is interesting." "That had nothing to do with me," Cassandra said quickly. "Ryan has been on the Conservation Foundation board for years. He's always supported Great Lakes research." "I believe you," Tina assured her. "But not everyone will. You need to be prepared for some professional jealousy." The warning proved prescient. Over the next few days, Cassandra noticed subtle changes in how some colleagues interacted with her. Most were supportive or simply curious, but a few seemed to view her relationship with Ryan as somehow compromising her professional integrity. Dr. Harding, a senior researcher who had always been somewhat competitive with Cassandra, made a pointed comment during a staff meeting. "I suppose some of us have found more creative ways to secure funding than writing grant proposals." The insinuation stung, but Cassandra refused to dignify it with a response. Later that day, Ryan called to check in, sensing something was wrong even through the phone. "It's nothing," she tried to dismiss it. "Just some workplace politics." "Cassie," he said gently, "talk to me." She sighed, relenting. "One of my colleagues implied that your company's donation to our research program had something to do with our relationship, as if I'm sleeping with you for funding." Ryan's voice hardened. "That's completely inappropriate. Do you want me to speak with your director?" "God, no," Cassandra said quickly. "That would only make things worse. I can handle it." "You shouldn't have to handle anything. This is exactly what I was afraid of, my position affecting how people treat you." "Ryan, please don't worry about this. It's just one person being petty. Most of my colleagues have been supportive." After they hung up, Cassandra found herself reflecting on how quickly their relationship had become complicated by external factors. Yet despite these challenges, her feelings for Ryan continued to deepen. There was something fundamentally right about being with him that overshadowed the difficulties. The following weekend, seeking escape from the scrutiny they'd been under, Ryan suggested a getaway to his family's lake house, located on a secluded stretch of shoreline about 2 hours north. "It's nothing fancy," he warned as they drove along the coast road, autumn foliage creating a vibrant canopy overhead. "My dad built it himself in the 80s, but it's private and peaceful." The cabin turned out to be a charming 2-bedroom structure with a large deck overlooking a small, sheltered bay. While certainly modest compared to Ryan's penthouse, it had a warmth and character that instantly appealed to Cassandra. "This is perfect," she said, stepping onto the deck and breathing in the crisp lake air. "I can see why you love it here." "This is where I learned to kayak," Ryan explained, coming up behind her and wrapping his arms around her waist. "My dad would take me out every morning during the summers. Said the lake taught better lessons than any classroom." "He sounds like he was a wonderful father," Cassandra said softly, leaning back against him. "He was," Ryan agreed. "Stubborn as hell but wonderful. He'd have loved you." "Why do you think that?" Ryan turned her in his arms to face him. "Because you see the world the way he did, as something to be respected and protected, not just used. And because you make me happy in a way I haven't been since he died." The simple honesty of his words touched Cassandra deeply. Standing there in the place where Ryan had spent his childhood, surrounded by his family's history, she finally allowed herself to say what she'd been feeling. "I love you," she said, the words both frightening and freeing. Ryan's smile could have lit up the darkening sky. "I love you too, Cassie. More than I ever thought possible." That night, as they sat by the fireplace drinking wine and talking about everything and nothing, Cassandra felt a sense of peace she hadn't experienced since, before their relationship became public. Here, away from the scrutiny and complications of their regular lives, they were just Ryan and Cassie, two people who had found each other through an unlikely rescue on the lake. "What are you thinking about?" Ryan asked, noticing her thoughtful expression. "Just how strange life is," she replied. "If my kayak hadn't capsized that day, I'd have found you some other way," he said with such certainty that she had to laugh. "You sound very sure of that." "I am," he nodded. "Some things are just meant to be." The weekend at the lake house marked a turning point in their relationship. Despite the continued media interest and occasional workplace challenges, Cassandra and Ryan settled into a rhythm that worked for them. They spent most nights together, either at his penthouse or her more modest apartment, and carved out time for each other despite their demanding careers. As autumn turned to winter, they established traditions together: Sunday brunches at their favorite lakeside cafe, evening walks along the shore bundled against the cold, quiet nights reading in companionable silence. Ryan made space in his closet for her clothes, and Cassandra cleared a drawer for him in her apartment. Then, 2 months after the gala photo had thrust their relationship into the public eye, a new challenge emerged. Meridian Shipping announced plans to expand its dock facilities at the Northern Harbor, a project that would potentially impact a sensitive wetland area that Cassandra's research center had been studying for years. She first learned of it not from Ryan, but from a colleague who forwarded her an article about the proposed development with a terse note. "Thought you should see what your boyfriend is planning." The expansion plans included mitigation efforts for environmental impact, but preliminary assessments suggested they might be insufficient to protect the fragile ecosystem. Cassandra felt a knot forming in her stomach as she read through the proposal. This wasn't just any company planning potentially harmful development, this was Ryan's company. That evening, when Ryan returned from a late meeting, Cassandra was waiting in his living room with the proposal displayed on her tablet. "Were you going to tell me about this?" she asked without preamble. Ryan's expression shifted from happiness at seeing her to concern as he registered her tone and the document on the screen. "The harbor expansion. Yes, of course. The board just approved it yesterday. I was planning to discuss it with you tonight." "This development would severely impact the Willow Creek wetlands," Cassandra said, struggling to keep her voice even. "That area supports dozens of migratory bird species and is a critical spawning ground for several endangered fish populations." Ryan set down his briefcase and sat beside her, his expression serious. "I'm aware of the environmental considerations, Cassie. That's why we've included extensive mitigation measures in the plan, which don't address the hydrological changes that would affect the entire ecosystem," she countered. "Ryan, my research team has been studying this area for 5 years. We have data showing even minor alterations to the watershed could have devastating effects." "Then I need to see that data," Ryan said simply. "If our environmental assessment is incomplete, we'll revise it." Cassandra blinked, momentarily thrown by his reasonable response. She had been preparing for an argument, not immediate accommodation. "You would do that?" she asked cautiously. "Of course," he replied, looking slightly hurt that she would question it. "Cassie, I've always told you that Meridian is committed to responsible development. If there's information we don't have, I want to know about it." The knot in her stomach began to loosen. I was worried this might put us in an impossible position." Ryan took her hand. "It's not impossible. Complicated, yes, but we can figure it out together." He paused, then added more softly, "Did you really think I would dismiss your concerns just because they might affect my business interests?" "No," she admitted, "but this is your company, your legacy. I know how important it is to you." "You're right, it is important," he agreed. "But so are you, and so are your professional convictions. I would never ask you to compromise those." Over the next few weeks, Cassandra worked with both her research team and Meridian's environmental consultants to develop a revised expansion plan that would protect the wetlands while still allowing for the needed facilities. The process wasn't always smooth. There were heated debates and moments of frustration on both sides, but ultimately, they reached a solution that satisfied everyone. The experience taught Cassandra something important about Ryan. Despite his wealth and power, He wasn't driven by profit at any cost. He genuinely believed in responsible business practices and was willing to listen and adapt when presented with new information. For Ryan, the harbor expansion controversy reinforced what he already knew about Cassandra. Her passion for her work and unwavering principles were part of what had drawn him to her in the first place. Watching her advocate for the ecosystem she had dedicated her career to protecting only deepened his respect and love for her. As Christmas approached, Ryan surprised Cassandra with an invitation to spend the holiday at his lake house. "It's been a family tradition since I was a kid," he explained. "I haven't kept it up the last few years, but I'd like to this year, with you." The idea of creating new holiday traditions together touched Cassandra deeply. Her own parents were traveling abroad for Christmas, making the invitation even more meaningful. They arrived at the lake house on Christmas Eve to find it transformed. Ryan had arranged for a local decorator to adorn the cabin with tasteful holiday decorations, including a magnificent pine tree in the living room window that overlooked the now frozen bay. "This is beautiful," Cassandra breathed, taking in the warm lights and evergreen garlands. "Wait until you see it with the fireplace going and the lights down," Ryan smiled, clearly pleased by her reaction. "My mom used to say this place was never more magical than at Christmas." That evening, after a simple but delicious dinner they prepared together, they sat by the fire exchanging gifts. Cassandra had agonized over what to get Ryan, a man who could buy himself anything he wanted, before finally deciding on a hand-bound journal, filled with her own detailed illustrations of Great Lakes fish and plant species, along with notes about their ecological significance. "Cassie, this is incredible," Ryan said as he carefully turned the pages. "You drew all of these," she nodded, slightly embarrassed. "It's a hobby I don't get much time for anymore, but I thought, since you spend so much time on the lakes for business, you might like to know more about what's living in them." "It's perfect," he said, looking at her with such tenderness that her heart seemed to expand in her chest. "Now I'm afraid my gift won't measure up." He handed her a small box wrapped in silver paper. Inside, Cassandra found a delicate silver pendant in the shape of a kayak, with tiny sapphires set along its edge like water droplets. "To commemorate how we met," Ryan explained as he helped her fasten it around her neck. "The day that changed everything for me." "It's beautiful," she whispered, touching the pendant gently. "I'll never take it off." As they sat together watching the fire, snow began to fall outside, large flakes drifting past the windows and settling on the frozen lake. The moment felt perfect, intimate, and meaningful in a way that transcended the typical holiday celebrations Cassandra had experienced before. "Thank you for being here with me," Ryan said softly, "for making this place feel like home again." Cassandra leaned against him, feeling the steady rhythm of his heartbeat. "Thank you for sharing it with me." The next morning, they woke to a world transformed by snow. After exchanging sleepy Christmas greetings and sharing coffee in bed, Ryan suggested they bundle up and walk out onto the frozen bay. "Is it safe?" Cassandra asked, eyeing the ice warily. "Completely," Ryan assured her. "My dad taught me how to check it. It's at least 8 inches thick right now." Properly outfitted in winter gear, they ventured onto the ice, the snow crunching beneath their boots. The lake house looked picturesque from this vantage point, smoke curling from the chimney against the backdrop of snow-laden trees. "It's like a postcard," Cassandra commented, her breath fogging in the cold air. "It is," Ryan agreed, then surprised her by taking both her hands in his. "Cassie, there's something I want to say." His serious tone made her heart skip. "What is it?" "These past 4 months have been the happiest of my life," he began. "Before I met you, I thought I had everything figured out. My company was thriving, I had achieved all the goals I'd set for myself professionally. But something was missing. Cassandra squeezed his hands encouragingly, her throat suddenly tight with emotion. When I pulled you from that kayak, I had no idea I was actually saving myself, Ryan continued. You've shown me that success isn't just about business achievements or financial milestones. It's about finding someone who challenges you, supports you, makes you want to be better. To Cassandra's astonishment, Ryan lowered himself to one knee on the snowy ice, still holding her hands. From his pocket, he produced a small velvet box. I know it hasn't been very long, he acknowledged, but some things you just know. And I know with absolute certainty that I want to spend the rest of my life with you. He opened the box to reveal a stunning ring, a sapphire surrounded by diamonds that caught the winter sunlight. Cassandra Oliver, will you marry me? For a moment, Cassandra couldn't speak. The proposal was unexpected. They had never explicitly discussed marriage, yet somehow it felt right. In the few months since Ryan had pulled her from the capsizing kayak, he had become essential to her happiness in a way she hadn't thought possible. Yes, she finally managed, her voice thick with emotion. Yes, Ryan, I'll marry you. His face lit up with a joy that rivaled the brightness of the snow-covered landscape around them. Standing, he slipped the ring onto her finger, then pulled her into a kiss that warmed her despite the frigid air. I love you, he murmured against her lips. More than I ever thought possible. I love you too, she replied, still hardly believing what had just happened. As they walked back to the lake house, hand in hand with Cassandra's ring catching the sunlight, she marveled at how dramatically her life had changed in just 4 months. A simple kayaking trip gone wrong had led her to the love of her life, to a future she couldn't have imagined but now couldn't wait to begin. Ryan, watching her expression of wonder, felt a profound gratitude for whatever twist of fate had put him on the lake that September day. When he'd impulsively paddled toward a capsizing kayak to help a stranger in distress, he had no idea that saving her would completely capsize his own carefully ordered existence, transforming it into something infinitely richer and more meaningful. That evening, as they sat by the fire making plans and dreaming of their future together, both Cassandra and Ryan reflected on how sometimes the most unexpected moments, even frightening ones like a kayak capsizing in rough water, can lead to the greatest happiness, if only we're brave enough to reach out a hand and pull someone to safety. Their wedding, 6 months later, took place on the shore of Lake Michigan, near the spot where they had first met. It was a small, intimate ceremony with just their closest friends and family present. Cassandra wore a simple white dress that caught the breeze off the water, and Ryan couldn't take his eyes off her as she walked toward him along a path strewn with wildflowers. As they exchanged vows with the lake as their backdrop, the same lake that had brought them together through near disaster, they both felt the rightness of their union. Their journey had begun with a rescue, but had quickly become a partnership of equals, each supporting and challenging the other in ways that made them both better. In the years that followed, they faced challenges together, the inevitable conflicts that arise when two strong-willed people build a life together, the continued balance of demanding careers, the occasional public scrutiny that came with Ryan's position. But through it all, their foundation remained solid. Ryan expanded Meridian Shipping with Cassandra's environmental expertise guiding many of their decisions, creating a company that became an industry leader in sustainable practices. Cassandra's research gained wider recognition, helping to establish new protections for the Great Lakes ecosystems she had dedicated her career to studying. They renovated the lake house together, maintaining its rustic charm while making it their weekend sanctuary away from the demands of their professional lives. It was there, 2 years after their wedding, that they welcomed their first child, a daughter with Ryan's blue-green eyes and Cassandra's curious nature. As they introduced little Emma to the wonders of the lake that had shaped both their lives, Ryan and Cassandra often reflected on the strange serendipity that had brought them together. One capsized kayak, one timely rescue, and both their lives had changed forever. On the 5th anniversary of their meeting, they returned to the exact spot where Ryan had pulled Cassandra from the water. They paddled out in tandem kayaks, Ryan with 4-year-old Emma secured safely in front of him, Cassandra with their 1-year-old son, Michael, strapped to her chest in a special carrier. "This is where it all began," Ryan told the children as they floated on the now calm waters. "Where I met your mom and fell in love at first sight." "You did not," Cassandra laughed. "You were too busy being heroic." "I was multitasking," Ryan insisted with a grin, "rescuing you and falling in love simultaneously." Emma, already showing signs of her mother's scientific mind, looked skeptical. "But how did Mommy's kayak tip over?" "The wind was very strong that day," Cassandra explained. "And sometimes, sweetheart, the most wonderful things happen because something goes wrong first. Like a happy accident," Emma suggested, repeating a phrase she'd heard her parents use before. "Exactly," Ryan nodded, reaching across the small distance between their kayaks to take Cassandra's hand. "The happiest accident of my life." As they paddled back to shore, their small family silhouetted against the vast expanse of Lake Michigan, both Ryan and Cassandra felt the profound gratitude that had become the cornerstone of their relationship: gratitude for a capsized kayak, for a timely rescue, and for the courage to let an unexpected encounter completely capsize their carefully planned lives. In finding each other, they had discovered something neither had been looking for but both had needed: a partnership that balanced ambition with compassion, success with sustainability, and most importantly, a love that had transformed them both in ways they could never have anticipated that fateful day on the water. And though neither could claim to know what the future would hold, they faced it together with the same courage and trust that had brought them safely to shore that first day, confident that whatever storms might come, they would weather them side by side, their love a harbor more secure than any either had known before.